The dryer hummed in the corner, steady and low, like it didn't care that my world was about to change. My phone lit up against the counter, one message, 4 lines long. Dad, don't contact us, don't come around. You're on your own now. No warning. No reason. Just a digital severing on a quiet Tuesday night. I stared at it until the screen dimmed, then brightened again when another notification appeared. My sister, Sloane, had reacted with a thumbs up. For a second, I thought it was a mistake. Then I realized it wasn't. It was punctuation. I typed back slowly, my fingers steady in a way my pulse wasn't. Me. Understood. I'll cancel the auto payments first thing tomorrow. Sent. The 3 dots of a reply flickered, then vanished. Nothing. I leaned against the counter, the air feeling too still. I wasn't sure if I should laugh or throw the phone. Instead, I whispered, "That's it." Then, 8 years of bills, taxes, grocery transfers, subscription renewals, all to keep their peace. One message, and the contract dissolved. The dryer clicked off, leaving the room too quiet. I poured water into a glass just to hear something. My reflection in the window looked strange, like someone who had finally stopped begging to be needed. The phone buzzed again. Group chat, Mom's name, Dad's, Sloane's all stacked like ghosts. I didn't open it. I powered the phone off. "This is what stopping sounds like," I said out loud. "If you've ever been the one who paid to keep the peace, you know the silence that follows can feel like freedom and fire. Stay here with me. The story doesn't end with a message. It begins with what happens after." I didn't sleep. By morning, the light in the kitchen felt thin, unreal. My phone stayed off on purpose. The bank app was still open on my laptop, rows of transfers, each one a week of silence, internet, groceries, property taxes, the monthly peace fee, 8 years, $146,000. When Mom used to text, it always started with care and ended with command. "Mom, we're short this month. God bless you, sweetheart. Never a please. Never a thank you." Sloane called once, crying over rent. "Just this once," I said then. She laughed through the tears. "You always say that, Jules." And I always meant it. Now, replaying it, I heard the habit in my own voice, the reflex to fix what wasn't mine. I shut the laptop. The numbers blurred behind my eyelids like receipts burning. Dad once said over dinner, "Family is about taking care of each other." But I was the only one who ever did the taking care. I whispered to the empty room. I bought their quiet. And for the first time, I wanted a refund. When people saw us from the outside, we looked balanced retired parents, 2 grown children, Sunday dinners, polite smiles. But balance only works when someone keeps paying the bill. Dad liked to remind everyone he'd retired early. From what? I never figured out. He'd lean back in his chair and say, "I gave this family 20 years of my life." Mom always nodded like it was holy truth. I once asked, 20 years of what? Dad. He looked at me over his glass. "Respect, Julian. Try showing some." Mom had her own mantra, peace, not pressure. She'd hum during her yoga classes. But peace meant I covered the mortgage, taxes, and her new streaming service. Then there was Sloane, my sister, my opposite. She lived through screens, sponsored posts, pastel filters. "Your generation doesn't get it," she'd tell me. "You work too hard to prove you're good. And you don't work at all," I said once. She smiled like it was a compliment. When I paid for her late rent last year, she'd sent a heart emoji and wrote, "You're the best brother ever." It felt less like love and more like a receipt. By the time I realized that, the balance had already gone negative. The phone rang just after dawn. I almost ignored it until I saw the name Grandpa Art. "Morning, kid," he said, his voice rough around the edges. "You all right?" "I'm fine," I lied. "Good. Bring your calm face. You'll need it." He didn't explain, And he didn't have to. When he hung up, the silence pressed in heavier than before. By the time I pulled onto the old road toward Cedar Ridge, the sky was the same dull gray it had been my whole childhood. His house sat on the hill like it was waiting for me. He met me at the door with 2 mugs of coffee and that look he used when he already knew the truth. "You stopped paying, didn't you?" he asked. I nodded. He smiled faintly. "Good. Maybe now we can start counting what they owe you instead." And just like that, the ledger began to shift. Grandpa Art's kitchen smelled like coffee and cedar. He slid a folder across the table, thick with documents and quiet history. "You need to see this," he said. Inside were deeds, tax records, and copies of letters I'd never known existed. My parents' names weren't anywhere on them, only his. "I don't understand," I said. "You will," he replied. "They never owned Cedar Ridge. I let them live there after your dad lost his job in Salem. It was supposed to be for 2 years, not 12. The words didn't hit all at once. They sank, slow and heavy. I paid their property taxes. I said, "For years." He nodded. "I know. I saw the receipts. Why didn't you tell me? Because I hoped they'd do right by you. By themselves. But that kind of hope doesn't grow in everyone." I stared at the folder. Every page was a confession I hadn't asked for. "I've given them 90 days to move out," he continued. "They think I'm bluffing. They'll say I made you do it." "They always do," he said softly. "People call truth cruelty when the free ride ends." I tried to laugh, but it caught somewhere in my throat. Dad always said he built that house with his own hands. Grandpa's eyes didn't flinch. "He painted 1 room. You built the rest. Kid every payment, every month." The folder stayed between us, thick as a wall, thin as a lie. I closed it carefully. "What do you need me to do?" He took a slow sip of coffee. "Nothing yet. Just stop fixing what they keep breaking." For the first time, I realized that silence could be an inheritance too. 2 days later, I opened my email and froze. A message from West Coast Federal Bank blinked at the top of my inbox. "Confirming your co-signed mortgage application." My stomach dropped. I hadn't applied for anything. I called the number listed and gave my details. The woman on the line paused. "Mr. Mercer, the application lists you as co-signer on a $75,000 home equity loan for Robert and Elaine Mercer, submitted yesterday." My throat tightened. "That signature isn't mine." "I believe you," she said gently. "We'll flag it for fraud." After hanging up, I sat in silence until my pulse steadied enough to type an email to my father. "Me. Did you use my name on a loan, Dad? You're overreacting. It's just paperwork. I needed collateral." Collateral. That was what I'd become. I sent 1 line back, "Freeze it now." Or, "I will." An hour later, the bank confirmed the account was locked. I stared at the screen until the words blurred, thinking how fast family could turn your name into currency. When Grandpa called that evening, I told him everything. He was quiet for a long time before saying, "Then the truth's coming quicker than I thought." And somewhere under the calm, I felt the ground starting to break. The air on Cedar Ridge felt sharp, like the world knew what was coming. I parked at the curb and walked toward the house I'd been funding since I was 22. Grandpa's lawyer followed a few steps behind, holding the manila folder that felt heavier than any weapon. Dad opened the door before I could knock. "You have some nerve showing up here," he barked. "After what you did to this family." "What I did, I kept my voice even. You forged my name on a loan." "Dad." His jaw tightened. "I was trying to keep this house afloat." "You never owned this house," I said, loud enough for the neighbors watering their lawns to hear. "You've been living here rent-free for 12 years. Mom appeared behind him, wringing her hands. "Julian, don't do this. People are watching." "Good," I said. "They should." I handed the lawyer the folder. He unfolded the 90-day notice, now amended to 21, and placed it on the porch railing. Dad snatched it, scanned the page, and laughed without humor. "You think this makes you better than us? I think it makes things accurate." I replied, "Every month since 2015 utilities, taxes, repairs came from my account. You called it family duty. I called it theft." Mom's voice cracked. "You're turning your back on blood." "No," I said. "I'm turning off the tap." Sloan stepped out with her phone raised. "Recording." "This is insane," she whispered. "Then post it." I told her. "Let them see the truth." Dad took a step forward. "You'll regret this." I met his eyes. I already did. "For 8 years." The lawyer nodded, confirming the document's delivery. I turned to leave. The neighbor's murmurs swelled, soft and uncertain. At the end of the walkway, I said quietly, "This isn't revenge. It's accounting." Behind me, the door slammed. Ahead, the wind felt cleaner. By the next morning, my phone was shaking with notifications. Sloane's face filled the screen-red eyes, shaky voice, the perfect filter for tragedy. "We're being thrown out of our own home," she said between practiced sobs. "Sometimes family turns against you for money." Thousands of comments bloomed under the post. "Money makes monsters. How could your brother do this?" I watched the video twice, then turned the phone face down. Grandpa called around noon. She went public. I said, "I saw." Let the crowd scream. We'll give them something to read. By evening, his statement hit the family thread like a lightning strike. "The property at Cedar Ridge is legally owned by me, Arthur Mercer. Robert and Elaine Mercer have not paid taxes or maintenance since 2011. My grandson, Julian Mercer, has covered these costs for 4 years. The notice to vacate is my decision alone." The group chat went silent. An hour later, Mom called. "How could you let him humiliate us like this?" she demanded. "By telling the truth, I asked. You've broken this family." "No, Mom. I just stopped pretending it was whole." Dad texted after midnight. "You'll regret this when he's gone." I didn't answer. On Sunday, Elaine stood in front of St. Mary's congregation, voice trembling, eyes wet. "Please pray for us," she said. "Our children have turned against us." A murmur of sympathy rippled through the pews. Halfway through the prayer, phones began to buzz. Someone had forwarded Grandpa's letter. By the time she reached Eamon, half the congregation had already read it. That afternoon, my aunt called. "Julian, what's happening? Your mother says you're making them homeless." I told her the truth, every number, every year. She went quiet, then whispered, "Oh." That small word spread faster than any lie. By nightfall, Sloane's post started to lose traction. The hashtags stopped. The comments thinned. A few brave ones wrote, "Maybe she left something out." When I checked again before bed, the video was gone. I shut my phone off and sat in the dark. Somewhere out there, a version of our family still existed online, clean, edited, filtered. The real one was finally unraveling in silence. A week later, an unfamiliar name appeared in my inbox, Caleb Ward, someone I hadn't spoken to since high school. "Hey, Julian, this might sound weird, but I think I stayed at your parents' place last spring. Recognized it from your sister's old videos. They were hosting on Airbnb. I read it twice, then 3 times. That evening, I drove back to Cedar Ridge. The air smelled of candles and staged comfort. Sloane opened the door, her mascara uneven. "What do you want?" she asked. I left some paperwork in the basement. I said, "Won't take long." She hesitated, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. Downstairs. The basement looked less like storage and more like a rental listing: folded towels, printed Wi-Fi cards, a spiral guest book labeled Mapleview Cottage. Each page was a confession in cursive. "Thank you for the lovely stay. Great view of the cedar trees." Dates, signatures, payment references. I photographed everything. When I climbed back up, Mom stood at the top of the stairs. Her voice was thin. "What are you doing here?" "Leaving," I said. Grandpa's voice answered the phone before I finished driving home. "They turned the house into a motel," I told him. "I figured," he said quietly. People who fake ownership love proof of their fake hospitality. 2 days later, his lawyer filed for immediate eviction unauthorized subletting. Clear breach. The 90 days became 21. Mom left a message that night. "You're destroying your own family." I listened once, then deleted it. The truth had already done the destroying. All I'd done was stop cleaning up after it. 2 weeks later, the moving trucks were gone. The house at Cedar Ridge stood hollow under the gray sky. I parked halfway down the hill and didn't get out. There was nothing left to see. Grandpa called that afternoon. They left a cracked vase and a key. He said, "You want it?" "No," I told him. "I'm done owning ghosts." He chuckled softly. "You did the right thing. Kid, you showed them life doesn't come with free refills." That night, I sold the old dryer online, the same one that hummed beside me the night my father's message came through. A man in a flannel jacket carried it to his truck and thanked me for the deal. "Happy to let it go," I said, and I meant it. Later, I made tea and stepped onto the balcony. The city lights shimmered through the mist, ordinary and kind. For the first time, the silence didn't feel like a threat. It just felt earned. My phone buzzed once more, a letter from the past, disguised as an email. Dad's handwriting scanned into a loan form, my name already typed as co-signer. I laughed, not bitterly, just tired. I forwarded it to Grandpa and wrote, "Guess they're still digging." He replied, "Then we'll build higher walls." I turned off the phone and let the quiet settle around me. I stopped the payments. I whispered, "But really, I stopped paying for peace I never received." If you've ever had to walk away to stay whole, I hope this story found you. Share it with someone who's learning to let go. Too, the silence that follows might be the sound of freedom beginning.